Hello there, it's me, a less problematic and much lower budget version of ContraPoints. Have you heard about MP Liz Truss? Turns out she's transgender. Just kidding. Actually, she hates trans people. So Liz Truss is the Minister for Women and Equalities, and she wants to reform this thing called the Gender Recognition Act. So the Gender Recognition Act is a bunch of laws put together in 2004 that allows trans people to legally change their gender. And this was a really big deal at the time because trans rights in 2004 was summarised by experts as not good. So this was obviously a very important legal landmark for trans people. So in 2018, the government decided to update the GRA because it was old and outdated. And initially a lot of trans people were really excited about this. It's really difficult to legally, socially and medically transition, and people were hoping that these reforms would actually make that easier. But then Liz Truss came along and she made a bunch of proposals to update the GRA. And most trans people were not happy with her proposals. And when I say most, I mean 99.9999999. Anyway, let's look at why trans people are upset. The protection of single-sex spaces. What's the big deal, you might think? Women's spaces should be protected. But she didn't say women's spaces, she said single-sex spaces. Limiting a transgender person's legal access to spaces based on their sex sounds like a way for the government to stop trans people. Use the toilets they identify with, be protected by women's shelters, use the correct locker rooms. This rhetoric of protecting same-sex spaces has been around a long time and is just an excuse to limit the legal rights of transgender people on the sole basis of bigotry. Proposal 2. Making sure that transgender adults are free to live their lives as they wish without fear of persecution whilst maintaining the proper checks and balances in the system. Now, obviously transgender people are freaked out by this one. What are the proper checks and balances exactly? And why should the government have any say at all over how adult trans people live their lives?